it gives me great pleasure to introduce renowned academician Nishi, renowned writer Nishi. The range of the genres of writing: 6 anthologies of poems, 10 plays, one full fledged film, 6 screenplays, novels, 2 screenplays, 2 novels. Range, fantastic range of writing, and the most recent one is an anthology of poetry, Singing in the Dark, co-edited by with K. Sachidanandan, published by Penguin Random House, October 2020. Absolutely fantastic range of writing, and now written and directed a very interesting film, I would say, Mixed Up. Nishi's doctorate is from the George Washington University, her postdoctoral work from Johns Hopkins, and no better teacher in a girls' college, University of Delhi. She migrated to Washington to join her family, has taught at the University of Maryland till 2040, currently on the faculty of the Thomas Edison State University, New Jersey, United States of America, Nishi. Nishi, what a range! What a range! Would you like to tell us how do you have this multidisciplinary approach, writing, teaching?
Rita, I still consider myself a well, I always wanted to become a writer, and I think I became an accidental academician. And I know you and I became good friends in Delhi University, right? So
Yes, yes.
yes. So I've been writing poetry from the age of, from my early teens, and then kind of wanted to become a writer. Did kind of venture into writing novels as well. And poetry has always been my forte, and I always find my muse, my, kind of. I love poetry, and I do intend to keep writing poetry. And yes, plays certainly. You keep kind of, when your muse finds you, it's like, you just, it sparks your creative imagination. So um, well, this was also written a couple of years ago, Mixed Up. It was written it was meant to be a play. So,
Yes.
kind of, we were Zoom reading, and we were caught in the midst of this pandemic that has engulfed all of us. So then we
Mm,
decided to turn it into a play, into a movie. I turned it into a screenplay. It's still very dialogue driven. Well, that's also a genre by itself, and you can
mm,
create your own genre also in the framework of movies. I did turn it into a movie. uh, so I became an accidental filmmaker, just as I kind of, became an accidental. I've taught for 40 years, maybe 4 decades, starting
yes.
very early at 21. Yes, I'm 62 now, very soon turning 63. So
Mm,
I still consider myself an accidental academician, because deep down I've always wanted to write. The struggles and challenges, of course, have been there, and my work has always been it's always meant for a niche audience. And Mixed Up is also a slow moving independent art movie, maybe not to contemporary taste. uh,
mm,
so it's like my poetry, slow, thought provoking, maybe an art house kind of movie. So
mm,
I've been
mm,
working on themes also, not just genres that are diverse, but I've
mm,
been working
mm.
on themes that explore and examine our diversity, as well as, our kindred humanity. In fact, when this poetry anthology, Singing in the Dark, also includes over 140 poets or so from across the globe, which was a
Yes,
gargantuan task. Like,
yes,
trying to contact all of them and asking
yes.
them, okay, submit, a poem. So it was fun. Yes.
Mm, mm. Tom, I still can't get over Winston Churchill. Winston amongst savages,
Good
erstwhile
try.
British Empire, the sun never sets on the British Empire, and Churchill's interaction.
Yeah.
And Nishi, after I read that, I just want to grab my hands on it and watch it and experience it and read it.
Oh, I
Churchill
should
Among
send you.
Savages.
Uh-huh. I should send you. Yes, the
Yes,
teleplay.
please do.
Definitely a
I have
recommend. Yes,
got
I've
a
sent it.
storm of anecdotes on by Winston Churchill and his interaction with George Bernard Shaw and all his statements on women and his fellow parliamentarians. And here you have what a title, Churchill Among Savages. And I just thought of Heart of Darkness. I just thought of Chinua Achebe. I just thought of the other, those heathens, and Churchill Among Savages. So must have been what a role.
Well, it was certainly the most challenging and difficult role I've ever had. Not that I've had that many of them, but
Hmm.
it certainly appealed to my interest as both a kind of historian wannabe and someone who, over the years, has become very familiar with Winston Churchill based on
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
interests.
Hmm.
Um, it was uh, it was a very challenging role, as Nishi will
Sure.
testify. Uh,
Yes, yes, yes.
and one thing it did do, I had known how resistant Churchill was to Indian independence,
Mm.
but I hadn't fully plumbed the depths of it until I started researching for the play.
Yes.
Um, but I mean, the most challenging part for me was to uh, resist the various Churchillian anecdotes and snappy
Anecdote. Yes,
quotes.
yes, yes, yes.
Mr. Churchill, if I
Innumerable
were to feed
anecdote.
you poison, madam, if I were your husband, I'd take it. Uh, but and the challenge was to really kind of convey that I was
Mm.
Winston Churchill without imitating him,
Without imitating
or
it.
paying a tribute to him, because his role in British history, in addition to the history of the colonies, was, I guess, to put it politely, mixed.
Yes, yes,
Uh,
absolutely. And then your role in Mixed Stuff as the father, as the uh, professor of
yeah,
two girls. One falls in love with an Indian doctor, the other with an Iranian, set in the 1970s. And what immediately came to my mind was how things change. We had in the 1960s a movie, Guess Who's Coming for Dinner? And just recently we have a movie, Guess Who? Turning color, race
mhm.
completely.
Yeah. No, I mean, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was certainly an inspiration uh, to the part. Of
Yes.
course, I'm neither as old nor as skilled as Spencer Tracy was. Uh,
Mm,
there's another expression that perhaps you're not familiar with
mm,
from that time period and before, called New
mm,
York Post liberal. This was
mm.
back when the New York Post, the newspaper,
Yes.
was owned by a liberal millionaire before the Murdochs took it over. And basically, a New York Post liberal
Yes.
was someone who was all for desegregation and equal rights for blacks
Yes.
and other
Yes.
folks, as long as they didn't marry your daughter. Um,
You
but I
can be
mean,
friends, but yes.
Scott was, I would say, a liberal. Uh,
Mm,
and in the context of the play, a henpecked liberal married
mm,
to an alcoholic and racist and xenophobic woman,
mm, mm,
who there must have been an attraction at some point, but that was clearly over.
mm,
And she just wore him down, and he, perhaps is not the strongest personality, uh,
mm,
and just
mm.
gives up, which was too bad because I've got a daughter and
Yes.
and a son, and although I would certainly not admit it, uh, I I'm a my daughter's a daddy's girl, and my daughter is first among equals, and
Mm,
I've always tried to be as supportive as possible to her aspirations. So it was easy to replicate that in mixed.
mm.
Um,
Okay. Okay. So your personal life, you think as a person who you are and the role that you had to perform. Was there a similarity in that?
I think, yeah, particularly in the scene where I'm talking with my daughter, uh,
Hmm.
very much, being myself. And
Hmm.
the woman playing my daughter was being my daughter. Um, so I
Hmm.
didn't think there was any real awkwardness as opposed to
Oh,
having to listen to my wife's tirades and defend against them and
yes.
eventually just say to hell with it and give up and do what you're going to do is
Hmm.
there's nothing
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can I've reached my limit.
So, yes. Something so very relevant in today's time, right through the world, whether it's the United States or whether it is India. We had a Hindi movie called Two States. I don't know if any of you saw it.
Yeah.
North and South. Culturally, totally different. Punjabis from the north, Tamilians from the south,
Mhm.
marriage that takes place. Have you seen it, Sanjay? Two States.
I have.
No, I've not. I've
You
not. I
have.
just chuckled on Punjabi and Tamil thing that you mentioned.
Punjabi and Tamil, exactly, two states. So the coming together of diverse religions, color, major theme these days, Nishi.
Mhm.
Something that you have really depicted so well and mixed up. Just the title, mixed up. And Sanjay, you have been the person that she falls in love with. How did
One of the
you,
daughters.
one of the daughters? And did you have to look at people around you and see how an Iranian is in the United States, or did the role come naturally to you?
No, it did not. I mean,
Hmm.
I had my struggle of research. I love
Hmm.
acting and I love to obviously get to know as much as I can about the role. My
Hmm.
challenge was with pandemic around. Even though I've got Iranian American friends, I didn't
Hmm.
have the luxury to be able to go out and hang out and ask questions. So and whatever I
Yes.
could research online was cliches. It was more
Hmm.
of accentuated accents, and which was more meant for a comedy. So
Oh, yes.
what
Hmm.
where I got lucky was that we I was able to engage with a dialect coach for the for Farsi, and he has
Hmm.
lived here many years. So it kind of it's a similar background. I mean, he came in here when he was in 20s, and so that fit myself in. And he's very kind. He spent hours and hours with me, so that
Hmm.
helped
Hmm.
to a large extent, I would say. And rest was just as much mannerisms I could pick up from him and few other friends of mine.
Hmm. Hmm.
Rest, I've tried to make it make believe. So hopefully something has come out. My final litmus test would be when a couple of Iranian Americans see it and they give me a feedback. I wouldn't say good or bad for now.
Hmm. 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 Art reflects reality. What would you say, Nishi?
Mm,
Does it hold up a mirror to everyday life? So does it have to be absolutely correct and not stereotypified? Did, did you look at people around Nishi and then wrote mixed up, or just
Uh,
not rooted? You put it in the 1970s.
uh-huh. Uh, oh, Amrita, it's like, I have been, yes, I mean, you do think about, various art forms that transform reality into an illusion of reality, or, kind
True.
of reflections of reality, so to
Hmm,
say.
hmm, hmm,
And, when one is writing, it's like, one is thinking about, one has to be leery of course, the anxiety of influence also. So
hmm,
uh,
hmm,
uh, all of it kind of comes to my mind, and I when I kind of I do create a blueprint for a
hmm,
plot.
hmm,
And I have been kind of interested in the complexities of racial prejudice, I
mm,
do kind of, the racial history of the United States is something that still
mm,
bothers me a lot. Not that
mm,
I have personally been impacted or affected in any way,
mm,
but the kind of uh, consuming and prolonged suppression of
mm,
Black Americans is something that kind of upsets me. So the complexities of racial prejudice, and how it kind of gets entangled with romantic love. This is something that kind of I have been interested in, and I didn't know the movie Guess Who's Coming for Dinner until Tom, when I approached him and I asked him, would you like
mm,
to act as the dad? So
mm,
he said, have you watched Guess Who's Coming for Dinner?
mm.
My
Yes.
husband and I did watch it. Yes, definitely. So I was also interested in intercultural love. So all my, of course, as I very honestly admit, it was written as a play. So my plays were kind of, I wrote a few history plays, and they were kind of, uh, mm, they were kind of philosophical in nature. I wanted to write a simple love story, but also not simple like a boy falling in love. So I wanted
Mm,
to kind of, make it a poetic rendition. So I've always been interested in interracial relationships. So I
mm,
kind of, it comes as an implosion, when the idea kind of sparks in my creative imagination, and then I have to kind of, the blueprint of, the plot kind of churns in my mind for quite some time, and then
mm,
it kind of, lets itself out. And
mm,
so yes, the movie is a slow and poetic meditation on love and race issues. Rightfully so, it's set in the 1970s. I didn't deliberately kind of create it in the 1970s, but as I
mm,
was drawing the plot, I was outlining the plot for myself. I wanted the second half of the movie to be set in contemporary times. It could be
Mm.
2010, 2015, 2020. So I kind of, so then you step back 40 years.
yes.
The sweethearts are now in their 60s, early 60s or so. So
Mm,
then it's kind of,
mm,
it
mm,
comes back
mm,
to the 1970s. So yes, you have to kind of, the temporal framework. uh, art should reflect reality, and it's a chicken and egg query in many ways, of course. So my
mm.
movie is a,
Sure, sure, sure.
yes. So I'm not really kind of, I hate to sit in judgment on anything, on race issues,
Judgment.
but
No,
it
but it's
should
just
kind of,
holding up a mirror to what happens. I teach caste and gender in
Mhm,
college,
mhm,
and it amazes me that a text that I am teaching from 1940
mhm.
both has relevance today, and a contemporary writer has picked up the same issue on gender
Yes,
across around the world. I
yes,
teach
yes.
Rabindranath Tagore, Bengali
Mhm.
writer. I teach Maya Angelou. The issues are the same.
Sure,
So
sure. Yeah.
1970s, 2021, you, for example, Rohini, 1970s mother,
Yeah.
and your experience, how would you look at yourself? I believe Nishi told me that you live in Toronto
Yeah.
and you have a daughter who is in Texas, is it? In
Dallas.
She's
Yeah.
an investment banker. How
No,
would you look at your experience as a mother and what you portray in Mixed Up?
I can't
As a mother,
imagine.
amazed. I saw a clip that Nishi sent me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
the
Yeah,
abuse
that's true.
that come out and that anger that comes out
Yeah. Yeah.
and
No,
the
I
phrases
really
that you use.
Yeah, now when I look back, it's so unfair, to the kids, what happened in those days. But yeah, we went through that. We went through that in the 1970s. I was a young girl growing up
1970.
in India. So yeah, a lot of people got married and lived these unhappy lives, and caste and race was such an issue at that time.
It
And
still is, Rohini. That
yeah,
is the sad part of it, that it still is.
it still
It
is.
still is.
It still is.
Yes.
Amongst at least the South Asian community, a lot of it still is in that mold. But but I must admit that the society has come a long way from what it was in the 1970s. And
mm,
when I see my daughters now, I can't imagine them going through anything like that.
yes,
Luckily, we've
yes,
given
yes.
them the freedom to grow independently, educate them, and
Mm, mm,
now they are independent minded, and they don't have to depend on us. In the past, when the women were not educated, they were not secure. So
yes.
for that situation, they were forced into getting married within the caste and whatever the parents said. But things
Mm,
are very
mm,
different now. So
mm, mm.
I can't imagine my daughters going through anything like that ever.
Yes, thank the dear Lord. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Nishi, when am I going to see the film and how?
It's still in post production mode. We are kind of
Okay.
fixing some, the ADR issue. So the actors, there are, by the end of this month at least, we should be we should have a product ready to I've actually sent it to a few film festivals,
Mm,
and it did get accepted. So even
mm,
though there are some sound issues and certain editing issues that are being taken care of by the
mm,
editing crew and the sound engineer as well. So it's I'm quite excited about, yes, sending it to film festivals. In fact, I sent it to the Iranian Film Festival and I told them I'll send you the final screener, by March, by mid-March or so. And they were so happy. So, I told them that I'd actually asked a well-known Iranian couple who live in Iran, and they're called
mm.
Indo. So it's her name is Shadi
Indo.
Yusufia, and he's
Mm,
Ardalan. And
mm,
they're pretty popular and very well known in Iran. So I just
mm,
sent them an email. I went into the website and kind of, I choose the music for my movies. In fact, right now we're also planning to make another
mm,
movie on mental
mm.
issues. So
Yes.
I did commission this Arman Ali. He's kind of his he lost his mother, who's pretty well known, I think, in Delhi political and social circles. So but he did compose a couple of pieces for me, and
Mm,
I've used one or two of them in the movie, and like the Iranian music, which is like the background music. So I'm kind of,
mm,
the movie is a
mm.
composite of American, Indian, Iranian cultures, and it's
Oh,
very exciting to take legal permission. Ankur Tiwari, I don't know if you know of him. He also gave me permission to use one of his songs, like, the break
mm,
scene
mm,
between one of the daughters. She's kind of, she's not as defined as Ashley. So this American couple, they have two daughters. One is Ashley and one is Brittany. So Brittany caves in, capitulates to, her mom's racist, so to say, tirade, and,
mm,
kind
mm,
of
mm,
being after her daughters. And so
mm,
she breaks up with her boyfriend Raj, who's the Hindu medical doctor from India. And so,
mm,
like, I asked Ankur Tiwari to use that song, and he gladly complied and gave it to
mm,
me, gave
mm.
me legal permission. But of course, if it gets accepted, and I hope it gets accepted in that Iranian International Film Festival, then I told them, about this famous couple in Iran. They live in Tehran, Indo.
Mm,
And
mm,
my God,
mm.
you should listen to the music on YouTube. So
Oh,
it's like very
wow. Okay,
Sanjay
okay.
and Lucy actually dance to it. So yes, I mean it's kind of exciting, and you should. Yes, definitely. I could have sent you the screener, but I wanted to give you the final version, with the
Okay.
sound kind of corrected. So
Love to see
uh,
it. Love
yes,
to see
it's a very low budget. It's a low budget, let's say,
it.
independent movie that I made, but it's the film does seek to unify people across cultures. So we're trying. This is it.
Mm,
It on the one hand, the story exposes the consequences of the daughter's decisions and choices
mm,
and the
mm,
changed landscape of modern romantic entanglements. And I'm not going to tell you the ending of and don't even ask me how does the movie conclude, because I feel for me, it's like, that is what the audience should focus on. So,
the
yes.
ending.
Uh,
At the moment, I'm really involved with endings because I'm teaching Bapsi Sidhwa's Ice Candy Man that was made
uh,
into a
yes.
film, Earth 1947.
Mhm.
And Deepa Mehta, the director who made
Yes.
Water, Fire,
Yes.
Earth,
She
changed the
mentioned about
ending.
it. Yes.
Changed the ending. So
Yes. Yes.
she
Yes.
was staying with me when the movie was being filmed. And
Okay.
I couldn't get over the fact that the ending that was so important in the film, the director changed it.
Yes. Yes. That's
So
kind of
sense of an ending, taking poetic license with a literary text. How would you feel, Nishi, if a play that you had written, or a novel that you had written, or a poem that you had written was directed and changes were made in the script? How would you feel?
um, I
Think
it did
about it.
happen to me.
Hmm.
It did happen to me with one or two of my plays until I decided to direct my own plays. So
Your own
it's
yourself.
yes, yes. So as a writer, my vision of what I'm writing, my message is very
Hmm.
important to me. So when
Hmm. Hmm.
somebody kind of interferes with and kind
Hmm.
of modifies it to his
Yes.
this theater director, the stage
Hmm.
director,
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
does hurt one's own artistic sensibilities,
Hmm.
and you feel,
Hmm.
so then I gradually kind of took it upon myself to say, okay, this is how, even though it's much more challenging to be a theater director and to be the writer also. And
Hmm.
very often, like after directing this movie, and I feel movie is such a collaborative act,
Hmm.
but I
So
wonder
important.
why are directors the directors are the kind of, all of the credit goes to, it's Meera Nair, suitable boy. Hey,
Hmm.
Vikram
Hmm.
Seth is the brain behind the entire novel.
Oh,
So, and in India or even out here, but the accolades, the importance that's given to the director is something,
oh,
it's the
oh.
writer that is the entire brain behind it. And in a movie, be it a movie or even a play, it's very collaborative. It's the actors who are, and in the case of the movie, the cinematographer, the editors, the visual quality of the movie
Has
is
to be.
so
Has
important.
to be.
So yes, it would be such a shame if someone were
It's
to
so important.
tamper. If had I written Babsi Sidhwa's Ice Candy Man, it would have
Hmm.
hurt me, And then, so the struggle is harder when you take
Of
upon
course.
yourself to direct your own project, your own screenplay or play. It's
Yes.
physically more challenging. All of us are moving on in life, and but I feel somewhere, the writer should always be consulted. The faith in the writer's vision
The
is,
faith in the writer.
yes, is something that one should dare not kind of tamper with.
Like R.K. Narayan's Guide. Vijay Anand made something glamorous with Wahida Rahman.
Yes,
And the actual text, Rosie in the guide, was totally different.
yes,
Nobody remembers R.K. Narayan's Guide. We all know Wahida Rahman in Vijay Anand's Guide.
yes, it's a
So
movie
it's,
obsessed world. It's, what do you do? When I write, like Penguin published my poetry, or I've written couple of, 10 plays, novels, all of that. People just
uh,
think,
uh,
okay, it's a loser's game. She's a poet.
mm,
Okay, she's a
yes,
playwright. It's
yes,
just a very niche audience that kind of respects what I'm doing, even as an academician.
of
But
course, of
making a
course.
movie, hey, they just kind of suddenly, I mean, I
The
feel like
visual,
it's a very collaborative act, and
yes,
the actors were so involved. So why would I marginalize the role, the importance of my
of the
actors?
writer.
The script
Mm,
writer here, of course, in this case it was me, Nishi Chawla,
mm,
who wrote
mm.
the script, but
Wrote the
they are
script.
as important. The music component, the visual quality, all of it is so
Light,
important.
yes, yes,
Everything, lighting, sound is
light,
so important. So yeah,
absolutely.
certainly yes. So I would say, and as a director, I dare not corrupt the ending or any aspect of
Mm,
if I were to take, I'd rather kind of handle my own work, and that's all that I can handle in life. But I would
mm,
certainly be hurt, and you have
mm,
to
mm.
respect the writer, the real brain
Oh,
behind
absolutely,
every
absolutely.
project, movie project is the writer. So yes.
Is the writer.
Yes, it's a travesty in many ways to kind of tamper with, yes, not just the conclusion, but I would say yes, be faithful. I thought a suitable boy was quite faithful too. Kind of, it
I
followed
thought
the
so.
intent.
Okay.
It
Well,
followed
my
the.
daughter pointed out saying Lata is wearing a sleeveless blouse that is impossible.
Yes,
Just something that caught her eye, her very first
of course. That
response
got, yes,
that
my.
Lata was not projected at that time, 1950s, not possible.
I'm always looking for anachronisms in historical films.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Not
Even
possible to be
if,
wearing that color, that print, that style.
No,
So,
in the movie Gandhi, in one of
yes.
the opening scenes set in Bombay,
Hmm.
there's a freighter that is clearly from the 1980s in the background, even though the scene is set
Exactly.
in the early 20th century.
well, we also faced a challenge, with the pandemic raging last year.
Hmm.
The movie was shot in the summer last year, summer of
Yes, yes.
2020, or maybe
Hmm.
September, I think. Yeah. So then, like I did want to, and I'm also a perfectionist in my own way. So I
Hmm.
wanted to recreate the 1970s, the amount of
Hmm. Hmm.
research I did into creating. And then when it actually happened, like the four actors were in my house, the scene where the daughters fight with their parents and the two
Hmm.
girls also said, Nishi, I said, my kitchen is very contemporary, we cannot possibly have it a fight in the kitchen. And they said, no, but all our fights with our parents have taken place in our kitchen. And by that time my children were upstairs. My home was converted into an office for a couple of months, and my sons decided to come and stay with us for 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
New
Okay.
York, you have those tiny, teeny, weeny 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartments. So here, they have so they came and they were watching the struggle. And Tom's always complies. So I like him as, he's kind of, he kept quiet. And the mom said, no, let's have it in the kitchen. So I do. And then, of
You
course,
had your microwave there. You had your food grinder
everything
there.
is, and then I'm telling him, please blur all these and just kind of turn it into the 1970s. So somewhere I have to compromise, much against my deep desire, as and
Yes.
the amount of research I did into trying to turn it
Hmm.
into the first half
Thank
into.
you.
And well, all of the actors did, we did think of the costumes they would wear. So
Yes.
the girls, Ashley and Brittany, I said, wear this. So we kind of, the hairstyle and all of that,
Hmm.
the shoes,
Hmm.
we matched all of that. But
Bell
when it
bottom.
actually came to yes, of course, yes, we got them from Amazon. Yes. So yes, Amazon, I kind of researched eBay and
Hmm.
all that.
Hmm.
And then
Hmm.
kind of, but when it actually came to the setting, it took place, much against my own wishes. But I let it go, and we
Let go.
enjoy the whole process. And
Love.
nothing can be perfect. People like to, there's so much effort that goes into any art project, and people
Absolutely.
just watch it. They just sit
Absolutely.
in judgment on it. They
Yes.
trash it or they criticize. Fine,
Oh,
and
yes.
you know,
What goes
it's
into the making of it is huge, is enormous, and it has to be so collaborative. Everything has to gel.
I tell you, yes,
You
I
know?
feel so blessed to have such a great team of,
How
actors
nice.
and
How
everyone.
very
Yes,
nice.
the
How
people
very, very
behind.
nice
Yes.
indeed. That is so nice. And
Yeah.
there has to be a willing suspension of disbelief also, and you just have to accept what
Yeah,
is
and
being
I
given
shot
to you.
in Toronto in my house.
Hmm.
So that too was another dimension, because
Hmm.
earlier it was a play and then the movie.
Hmm.
So yeah, we had to blur out contemporary areas of the house, and quite like Nishi's.
I told her to get a phone, from the
Oh yeah.
70s, because we just use cell phones now, of course.
Exactly.
So one we
So
got from one
I
of our friends, people who have lived there for 30, 40 years. I got two phones for my house, somebody who would get them in the garage. If you live in
That
your
black
for
phone that was
30, 40 years.
inside.
So I
Yes.
got those, yes. So the
Oh,
phones, and yes,
wow.
to
Wow.
turn it into. So I said, whatever Indian artifacts you have in your house,
Yes.
Rohini, just plant them there in that room, and so we just kind of trying to recreate an Indian
Yes.
scene where
Yes,
the
yes.
Indian mom's talking to her son and trying to coax him and to discourage him from not
Oh,
marrying the love of his life. And
right,
it's very
right.
sad
Very
because
interesting.
we
Then you
tampered.
should make a making of the film. Like for Sholay, they have many, many films as to what went into the making of that film. Do it for Mixed Up also, behind the
Oh
scene.
dear. Oh dear. This is such a
Yeah.
small,
That would be fun.
minuscule,
Anecdotes,
which won't even, yes. But you have
Oh,
brought out, yes, you have brought out that,
Yes.
what the heck.
All
that
the
is also very
conversation
interesting.
about
Very
It's
interesting.
always interesting. This is,
Ah.
you won't even make a minuscule ripple, so to say. I'm glad it'll just get accepted to a few film festivals, and it was good effort
But
on.
Nishi, think about it. Don't you think so, Tom, Sanjay, Rohini? I like reading what went on behind the scenes.
yeah, more
It's
interesting
great
sometimes than
fun. I was reading the biography of S.D. Burman, Sun Mere Bandhu Re, and he said everything was so collaborative. Vijay Anand sat and read out the story of Guide.
Mhm.
And the lyricist got up, walked out of the room saying, "Aaj fir jeene ki tamanna hai, aaj fir marne ka irada hai." S.D. Burman followed him singing the tune. It was all collaborative and it just adds to our understanding of the film. So think about it, Nishi.
Well, I mean, the main thing about movies, film making movies in general, is
Hmm.
the amount of time people sit around
Yes,
doing
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
discussing.
yeah,
while
Exactly.
everything is being set up for the umpteenth shot, and then once that shot is done,
Yes,
everything has to get set up again for
yes,
doing another
exactly.
angle.
Exactly.
So and there are not a lot of fireworks in this production, so it would be, I suspect, a pretty dull movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But your point is absolutely valid. It's a lot of sitting around for
Lot
sure.
of
With other projects I've
That
noticed.
sister was staying with me when the Deepa Mehta was filming in a Lodi Garden. Rohini, you would know Lodi Garden.
Oh yeah, I know
And
Deepa Mehta lives in Toronto too. So
okay,
yeah,
so Babsi had, so Amir Khan would take 5 days for one small shot. So day after day, we were going to Lodi Garden,
oh,
setting up, putting the public aside for 2 seconds or 1 minute, 5 days. So
oh
I
yeah.
know what must have gone into the making of the film.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
that's
expensive too.
definitely, yes. It's like they obviously have a big budget and they can afford all
Hmm,
these prolonged
hmm,
shots, multiple shots, so to say. But
hmm,
yes,
hmm,
definitely. Like I'm amazed. Getting to know my actors, and now I'm involved in another movie
hmm,
with mental issues, and it's
hmm,
just amazing how their insights, their observations, the way all actors, their
hmm, hmm,
patience, their perseverance, all of them,
hmm,
it's like,
hmm, hmm.
you get to learn. I like to learn from others, as
Done.
and as a
Oh
team,
yes.
it was, yes, it was, they were in it, for just the kind
Hmm.
of sheer passion that was driving all of my
Yes.
actors. I'm
Oh,
kind of
how very nice.
I'm
How very
humbled
nice.
by it. I'm
How
kind of
nice.
the detailed research each of them did. Like
Hmm,
Tom just spoke to you about
hmm.
even about Churchill. Well, like you, he's just an amazing. Tom also has, like,
Oh,
his
oh my
his
goodness.
insight,
Every
knowledge into
joke of it.
international affairs. Well, and the way you,
Hmm.
Amrita, you are kind of, so well known in Delhi literary circles, Delhi, you
No,
are,
no, no.
the way you interview, I know you're not just a very well-known academician, but the way you interview and bring out
Rohini,
the
when you
best
said,
in.
sorry to interrupt you, Nikki, to record, nobody can record. I teach the Mahabharata and I teach partition literature, and the examples that I give, the censor board would be on my head then. So
Oh,
there's no way my lectures can be recorded.
But
And Hindi movies are a major part of my literature lectures.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's still yeah. You have to be careful for sure. The censor
have
board,
to be careful, Nishi.
yeah,
Really have to be careful what gets
it start
recorded.
get a little emotional and it gets politicized unnecessarily. You mean something and it turns into something. So
Yes.
I
When
understand.
you were talking about mixed partition literature, what films we have, what texts we have. Khamosh Pani, Pinjar, made into films, and
Yeah.
the adaptation of Amrita Pritam's works into films.
Mhm.
Sadat Hassan Manto, his
Ah,
short story can't be made into films.
yes, yes.
Manto was made, Deepa Mehta made Manto, but it couldn't capture
Nandita.
what the text
Yeah.
is,
Yes,
you know.
yes,
So much to be said about writing and films based on those books.
yes, yes.
Like your mixed up,
Uh-huh.
there's a screenplay, there's a play, there's a film. Love to do work on that, Nishi.
Allow me to interview you for a minute now, Amrita, because you're so well known in Delhi social literature, literary intellectual circles. I mean, you are the one, everyone who, any eminent writer comes, Amrita is the one who's kind of
No,
invited
no,
to interview. So tell me about the, you were asking me about, the behind the stage, so to say, scenario,
no.
and pull out some interesting episodes from it. But tell me about yourself, your experience as an interview.
I am at the moment, since Sanjay and Tom and Rohini don't know me, and I love to talk about myself. I've been teaching at the Jesus and Mary College since I was 21 years old, except for 1 year at St. Stephen's College. I've been at JMC.
Yes.
And every morning I get up excited because I'm teaching. I teach a range of literature. And I know it sounds like a Hindi movie dialogue, but I am learning every single day. I
Mhm.
teach Dalit literature. I teach partition literature. I teach Rabindranath Tagore. I'm teaching a course called Literature and Cinema. So I'm teaching Amrita Pritam's Pinjar,
Mhm.
made into a film. I'm teaching Ice Candy Man, Bapsi Sidhwa's Ice Candy Man, made into a film, Earth 1947. I
Mhm.
teach the Mahabharat. So for me, it is a journey.
Mhm.
I refuse to oft on my couch lie thinking about daffodils. Refuse to do that. I will not be Macaulayized. I will not be Churchillized.
Mhm.
It's a discovery of my heritage. It's a discovery of my culture. And I'm also part of the DSC Prize for South Asian Writing.
Yeah.
It's the largest prize given to works about South Asia.
Mhm.
So we are doing the 10th year this year, Nishi.
Mhm.
So there are 9 nations, South Asia. It's an international panel of judges that we have, and the prize is given every year in a South Asian country. So I've had the most amazing experiences in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and in Nepal.
Mhm.
The prizes, the people, the literature, festivals over there, the most amazing. Calcutta, the Calcutta Literary Festival, the Dhaka, what can I tell you about Bangladesh? So it's a discovery because, as I said, I was totally Macaulayized. I only studied English literature.
And
So from
Amrita,
Chaucer,
yes,
huh?
I do recall, in the 1980s and 90s, just before I was doing my PhD at GW at that time,
Hmm,
and
hmm.
shuttling between, I was still, teaching at Delhi University, taking a sabbatical. But, the struggles all of us had to bring into, to restructure, to literally deconstruct all of what we as students studied, as
Yes,
the canon of
yes,
English literature, and the struggle, all of us, even I was also the department in charge at that time at
yes,
Gargi
yes,
College.
yes,
And
yes.
so, to bring in this South Asian component. But if I could latch on to what, since you are kind of very, you're definitely deeply passionate about teaching Asian literatures in English.
Hmm, yes,
So
yes.
something, about, like, I do plan to kind of make maybe, one or two more movies, but I just want to use the English language. And since
Sure,
the English language is
sure.
part of, it's part of the official languages of India,
Yes.
I wonder why, there are hardly any, and all of these Bapsi Sidhwa and others you're
Hmm,
talking about, a couple of novels were written in English, but they were,
yes.
when they were kind of, adapted as movies, they turn them into Hindi. It's not as if, a bulk of the Indian population, especially in the South,
Hmm,
and in most parts of India, do understand, speak good English. I
sure,
grew up
sure,
there, so
sure.
so how is it? So I just thought, no, Nishi, you have to, if you make a movie, you have to make it in English language, not because
Sure.
I'm an Anglophiliac, not because I'm kind of, I've been teaching English literatures. Well, for the past 40 years, I've been teaching global literatures.
Sure.
I do
Sure.
teach literatures from across the world. But then I said, no, not because I'm in awe of the English language, but I
No.
felt, if let it be, if this is the medium that I'm comfortable in,
Sure.
why
Sure.
do I deliberately, just to buy an audience, do I need to change it into Hindi? Or
No.
I considered, like, I considered turning, well, it won't apply to this movie or the next one I'm making on on mental issues. It's called The Strange Case of Normalcy. I've considered making a movie using English, a smattering
Sure.
of Hindi and
Sure.
English.
Sure.
But I still
Absolutely.
felt,
Excellent.
if my vision is to, write in English and to communicate in English, and why
Mm.
cannot we have
Absolutely.
movies
Absolutely.
that can be
Absolutely.
addressed to the Indian audiences, but there are very few movies made in English. So, in that sense,
Sounds
I want
very
to
good.
send it to film festivals in India also. Just as I
Yes.
sent it to the
Yes.
one in Iran, it got
Yes.
accepted to 3 international festivals here in the US also, in Delaware
Mm.
included, Women's International Film Festival. But, I
Mm.
want to send it not because it just addresses, there's just an Indian doctor who comes to the US and goes
Mhm.
back.
Hmm. Hmm.
But,
Hmm.
just kind of, I feel, I just want to send it as a kind of, as a token of my, that I still, it's kind of not a homecoming, but I enjoy, it
Of
being
course.
part of India. My
Of
soul is,
course.
I'm an American citizen. I want to still kind of, still, India can't be taken out of me in any way.
Oh,
But when
absolutely.
it comes to
Absolutely.
communicating, I still feel, Nishi, just be faithful to what you feel like.
What
If you
you
want
feel.
to,
Absolutely.
if I want to,
Absolutely.
use actors who can speak in the English language and who communicate, it will be a movie that's kind of,
Oh,
that,
absolutely. I'm thinking of In Custody. What a film.
hmm, hmm,
Anita Desai's novel dealing with a lecturer in Hindi who has to interview an Urdu poet
hmm,
who lives in Chandni Chowk.
hmm,
And what a film. In Hindi, in English, and in Urdu.
hmm.
All three languages, multilingual in a way.
Yes, yes.
So, absolutely, absolutely, you can make it in English
Hmm.
and feel be a pan-India film where which everybody can understand. Bilkul, bilkul.
When you
I'm
talk
thinking
about
of
social
other films,
relevance, you've got to address the, a global community, because we
a
are all,
global.
interlinked and interdependent in
Absolutely.
many ways. All of our
Oh,
cultures, all of us human beings, a lot of, people
yes,
that you have a sister-in-law living in Chicago,
yes.
everyone has some family member or a friend living
Oh,
in the US or in
all
other
around
parts
the
of
world.
Australia, Europe. So yes, we are all, it's a chain. It's a
It's a chain. And we are all connected now.
absolute.
Absolutely connected. So you have a cat,
Oh,
Tom Schiller.
just one of them. We've got two cats, but this one is a very social and clingy one. The other cat only makes an appearance when it's feeding time.
Okay.
We also have a dog, but the basement is a dog-free zone, so this is the cat's territory.
Okay.
And what was
Talk
it Oscar
about
Wilde said
India.
about the British and the Americans? Two people divided by a common language. Uh, no, I mean English, for better or worse, is kind of the world language for business and many aspects of culture. And one could make the argument that one of the few beneficial things that British imperialism brought to India, in addition to railroads, is a common language that
Yes.
certainly among certain classes transcends ethnic and linguistic differences.
Yes, it
Hmm.
did
Oh,
create a
yes.
linguistic caste system, right? It still
Yes.
persists. Mr. Churchill, Tom,
Mm-hmm.
the British language has perpetuated a linguistic caste system all across
Hmm.
the world. So,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
we are
absolutely.
divided by the English
Absolutely.
language, which is kind of, not a nice thing.
Yeah, no, and we're all of the class that benefits from that common
Oh,
language.
yes. Oh, yes.
And
There's such a hierarchy that is set up in Asia
mhm.
on the basis of English speaking. Have you seen these films, Hindi medium and English Winglish?
Yeah.
No, I've only
Must see film.
I haven't been Macaulayized, but perhaps I've been Forsterized.
English Winglish about a woman who comes to the United States, doesn't know how to
Mhm,
speak in English and takes lessons, and how she's looked down on by her children
mhm.
because she's not English speaking.
Yeah, well, that's a very common immigrant
Very
experience
common, yes,
in
yes. So since
certainly in the
you
United
have
States.
daughters and parents in your play, in your film
Yeah.
mixed up, English Winglish is a must see.
Hmm.
And a movie called Hindi Medium, where a wife and a mother shifts homes. Rohini, you've lived in Delhi, so you know Vasant Vihar. They
Yes.
sell their shop in Chandni Chowk, home
Yes.
in Chandni Chowk, to shift to Vasant Vihar to have
Yeah.
access to an English school, a school
Yes.
that teaches in English.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
I've
movie
watched.
is taking up these
Yeah.
linguistic issues. And it
Absolutely.
made me so sad. We drove through Sri Lanka, my
Yeah.
husband and
Yeah.
I, in a car, and every second village had tuitions in English. Tuitions in English.
Yeah,
Just
and also the
makes you
children,
sad.
yeah, they teach their children, oh, you don't talk to me just because, don't talk to me in Hindi, which
Yes,
was actually
yes,
something my daughters went through when they were young too.
yes,
Going to Mumbai from Delhi, the
yes,
girls would
yes,
say, "Oh, don't talk to me. I won't talk to you because you don't talk English."
in English. It's such a deep, my hairdresser would always say,
Like
and
the
I had concocted a little game with him. I'd enter and say "Good morning" loudly so that everyone could hear that I was greeting him in English, and I had given him three phrases to use so that people knew he thought he knew English. Just saddens you. Just saddens you. There's a hierarchy that is set up on the basis of where do you stay and which language do you speak.
All across Asia as well.
All
Uh,
across Asia. Sri Lanka, as I said, every
with
village has
privilege English, yes, the emphasis given to English coaching classes, certainly, yes.
coaching classes.
Yes,
Have
what
to get
Tom
the right.
says, also, yes, how it benefits, people across the world. Yes, in pragmatic terms, in the world of business and commerce and trade, it does kind of, to have a lingua franca of the world, one common language. But the way it has been abused or misused, or the political nuances given to the way it has been corrupted for our own vested motives is, I mean, you can call us, you and I, or who teach English literature, who've been teaching, or like Sanjay, and who speak very good English, all of us who are privileged enough, Sanjay, all four of us who are here, to have studied in English medium schools, to be very comfortable in our own skin speaking the English language, so there's a certain element of hypocrisy attached to what I'm saying. But then, so yes, in business terms, certainly it helps, yes, to have one lingua franca across the board, across the world, Australia, all of these British, but it's still that lingering, so to say, shackles, the psychological shackles is what upsets me, to look down on people because of the inability to communicate in the English language, to dehumanize them, not to think much of them, and not to allow them to, it's something, that's part of the American legacy also, so
there's a name my daughter gave this. Um, it's imperial language colonized. It's
of
something
course.
like that. My daughter gave it a name. It's
It's a
saying that
colonizing of our minds, how we shackle our minds. We still live in this post colonial world where our minds are shackled by this imperialistic legacy. So it's just a shift that has taken place, from European
Carrying
colonialism
on.
to a different form of colonialism in
Well,
many
I think
We are
there's
Macaulayite completely till today. I can't
linguistic
get over what
chauvinism.
Macaulay said in his Minutes on Education. Never seen a country so proud of its heritage, make them look down upon themselves, institutionalize English. We
Um,
are
I,
Macaulayite to the core.
I mean, linguistic chauvinism is hardly a phenomenon of English language.
Linguistic
I'm
chauvinism.
fairly fluent in French, and when I was in France, the French person I'm talking to, their attitude changes immediately
Mm,
when they recognize that I'm not some dumb American tourist who doesn't speak French, but can communicate with them in their own language,
yes,
and
yes.
they're very appreciative of that.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
and again, across every national and ethnic divide, uh, there is pride in one's original language.
which is not the
mm,
case with
mm, mm,
post-colonial countries,
Well
Tom.
said, yeah.
mm.
No, I lived
To
in
have a
Britain for
pride in oneself is so important, and it's a new experience in India.
Mm,
To have a pride in our language, it's new, relatively,
yeah,
talking in terms of history, relatively new, last 40 years or so.
yeah, and it
No
also,
need.
you could argue, leads to extremes.
Yeah.
Endless discussions we have on this. It's so varied. Whatever statement one makes, the opposite is true at that very time in India. So there have been changes, no, there have been no changes. Progress, no progress.
Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yes, things stay the same. When I teach Dalit literature, I'm teaching an essay or a short story from 1960. I'm carrying a newspaper cutting from yesterday. Same situation. So just is very, very disheartening. Very disheartening. Nothing changes. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold as it is right now.
Well, we'll see if the center can hold in the US.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Hair's breadth.
Mm. When are you coming to India, Nishi?
Uh,
Vaccinated, non-vaccinated.
yes, just
Mahabharats take place in our house over vaccine
uh-huh, uh-huh. So
to
they're okay. There are
or not
people
to take.
okay. People are like your family members, your son or daughter, resistant to the idea of being vaccinated.
Well, I can't put son and daughter in the same category. They're poles apart in their attitudes as is husband and father-in-law. So there are massive discussions on at all times
Uh-huh.
to take or not to take.
Mhm.
And we say it's excellent to have social media, but the downside of that is too many opinions,
Certainly.
too
Yes.
many discussions, too many contrary kind of you know,
It's our own
examples
brave
that
new
people
world.
come up.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yes. It's a brave new world.
Great new world. Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Amrita. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishi. It was so nice. I enjoyed it, Tom.
It was a
Really.
pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Sanjay.
Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for recording this and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
taking care of
Didn't have to
Very
edit a
good.
lot of
we
accents
missed,
from
yes, Tom's girls.
Uh,
We missed them, but maybe another interview. So they couldn't join. But yes, thank
yeah.
you so much, Amrita.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
It's an honor.
Bye
Thank
bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye
Good to see you
bye.
all.
Bye bye.
Calm and wonderful.
Bye bye.
Sanjay.
Thank you.